Hey, welcome into Sports Map Houston. I'm Brandon Strange. That guy right there is Josh Jordan. He's editor of sportsmaphouston.com. Hit like on the video, subscribe on the channel, click that bell for notifications, and comment below and tell us what your thoughts are on what we're talking about. And Josh, what we're talking about is that this week the Texans made headlines when they interviewed former Dolphins head coach Brian Flores. He's said to be one of the final four in consideration, or at least one of the final four who've received second interviews. Our own resident draft expert and NFL insider Lance Zierlein gave us some behind-the-scenes insights Tuesday morning on ESPN Houston. Let's check that out.
I already know Flores is like Bill O'Brien, so I'm not interested in that. And I found out more stuff yesterday. No, I'm not interested. He said, you're just getting another Bill O'Brien in the building. He was a terror in Miami. Well, I would have been okay with him before I found out how bad it went behind the scenes with his owner and coaches.
So, Josh, he's not the only person, or at least certainly not the first person, to make that comp to Bill O'Brien. What are your thoughts when you hear LZ so emphatic that based on his sources, he thinks Brian Flores is absolutely the wrong coach for the Texans?
Obviously, it's concerning anytime you hear Bill O'Brien brought in here, and obviously I trust whatever LZ has, but I'm curious who he's hearing this from, because we know that the Dolphins, they kept their general manager and they got rid of Brian Flores, so they wanted that relationship with Tua to be good. And it's a lot easier to point at Flores and be like, he's the one that wanted Deshaun, not us. You're our guy, Tua. So it makes sense that they would want to, create some separation there and make it look like that, it was Flores that wanted that. So I wonder if, where Lance is getting this from, because we saw some of that right after Flores was dismissed. But, there is some smoke to this, because we also heard the report from Michael Lombardi that Flores told Tua, if we knew you were going to be this bad, we would have drafted Mac Jones. So Michael Lombardi's kind of walked that back a little bit, but he did say that. So you have to wonder if, maybe there is a little bit of that in Flores, that, he's kind of that guy, that alpha that pushes a little bit. But that could be a good thing, to have a little bit of back and forth between Caserio and the coach. And they're both from New England, so maybe they would see eye to eye more than we think.
Well, that is one of the points that our own Joel Blank was talking about on his show, was he thought Flores is a good candidate because he has more cachet, because he can be more on equal footing with Nick Caserio. What's interesting, and I want to get your thoughts about, what is it about these guys with Patriot ties where they have these strong alpha personalities? We even heard Josh McDaniels this week, kind of talk about in his experience how he may have not understood the importance of building culture. And we've heard so many of these guys have run-ins and be hotheads. What is it about that Patriots legacy or influence that makes guys so headstrong, or at least they're attracted to that sort of culture?
Bill Belichick, it's worked for him. He's had a lot of success running things that way. Famously, he, didn't treat Tom Brady very well. He would be one of the first guys he would point at, Belichick, that is, that if Brady made a mistake, he would call him out in meetings. That's how he does things. So it makes sense that if you work under somebody, you pick up on some of their strengths and weaknesses, how they approach things. So, that doesn't surprise me all that much. But I do like the fact that Flores, at least he has some head coaching experience. All these other guys that the Texans are interviewing, they may have been coordinators or something like that, or nothing like that in McCown's case, but at least Flores has been there, done that. He's coached, he's been a head coach. And, Caserio's only had 1 year on the job as a GM. I don't think it'd be a bad thing to bring in a little more experience.
I'm glad you brought up Nick Caserio, because I heard Jake Assman this week talking about this on the Wheelhouse. It was Monday, as a matter of fact, and I wanted to get your take on it. He said GMs don't get a third coach. His thought was that, Nick Caserio misstepped on hiring Culley, obviously, but if he had held on to David Culley, people on the outside would have understood holding on to him, because, they were tied to a multi-year contract. They're not going to be a good team next year either. But the fact that the hire was so egregious and that Nick felt compelled to fire Culley after just one season, Jake's position was the next hire better be the right one, because Caserio won't or shouldn't get a third shot at it. What's your reaction to that?
I would say in most circumstances that's the case. But when has this iteration of the Houston Texans ever been your normal circumstances, right? This is a team that they like to think outside the box. I mean, nobody else interviewed David Culley. Nobody else is interviewing Josh McCown as a head coach. So they do things a little different. And if Jack Easterby signs off on whoever Caserio's going with, and I know they've said that it'll be Caserio's decision, but we know Easterby has some influence, has some say. If it doesn't work out, I think Easterby's tied to Caserio. He's not going to want to push Caserio out, then he jeopardizes himself. And especially if they go with Josh McCown, because that's what we're hearing is that Easterby's the one pushing for Josh McCown. So if that fails, I don't think Easterby's going to make any noise calling for Caserio to leave. I just don't think that'll be the case.
Well, we did make the mistake in thinking that Jack Easterby was tied to Bill O'Brien once before, and that was a mistake because they certainly were not tied there. But I think it's going to be interesting because, you're exactly right. That's exactly what my thought is that this is not a normal situation, and I don't know if it's too strong to call Cal McNair an absentee owner, but it sure feels like that. It sure feels like he's not really active behind the wheels of this organization. So I absolutely could see a scenario in which Nick Caserio is able to hire a third coach just because perhaps Cal McNair is just not paying attention.
No doubt. And there's a lot of years left on Caserio's contract. So, I mean, he fired the first one after 1 year. So I would not be surprised at all if we're having this conversation in 2 seasons and they're talking about hiring yet another head coach.
Oh, don't say that. No, not in 2 seasons. We're not talking about this again. No, please, no.
I tried to warn you.